In the year 2020, deep in the frozen ground of Siberia, a group of men digging for mammoth tusks pulled a small furry body out of the ice. It still had its whiskers. It still had its claws. And it belonged to a predator that the entire world believed we would never truly see. This is the Ice Age, and it was not the gentle world of the cartoons. It was colder, bigger, and far more dangerous, a place where ordinary animals grew into monsters, and then, those monsters were hunted by worse ones. These are the apex predators of the Ice Age, ranked and explained. Some of them you think you already know. You are wrong about almost all of them. And the deadliest one of all is not extinct. It is watching this video right now. Let us start with an animal you have definitely heard of. And almost everything you know about it is a lie. The dire wolf. For 100 years we assumed it was simply a bigger, meaner gray wolf. Then scientists finally pulled apart its ancient DNA. And the results stunned them. The dire wolf was not a true wolf at all. It had been evolving on its own separate branch for millions of years, so far apart from wolves that they probably could never have bred. We had been calling it by the wrong name for over a century. It was heavier than any wolf alive today, around 68 kilograms of muscle, built to drag down giants. And we have found them by the thousand. In the tar pits of Los Angeles, a lake of black sticky death trapped panicking prey, and when the dire wolves rushed in to feed, the tar took them too. More than 4,000 of them have been pulled from that single place, a graveyard of a predator wearing a stranger's name. So, the first killer is not who you thought it was. Neither is the next one, and it ate the dead. Meet the cave hyena. To understand why it belongs on this list, you have to look at where it slept. Deep in the caves of Ice Age Europe, there are dens packed with thousands of bones, every one of them cracked open and gnawed. The cave hyena did not just eat meat. Its jaws could shatter a thigh bone to reach the soft marrow hidden inside. Almost nothing was ever wasted. Here is the disturbing part. When scientists sorted through those bones, some of them were human. For thousands of years, our ancestors were not always the ones doing the hunting. To a cave hyena, an early human was not a rival. It was a meal that simply had not lain down yet. And the cave was where the leftovers were kept. That is a predator that treated our ancestors as a snack. The next one turned an entire living species into a permanent state of panic. Meet the American cheetah. To see its ghost, you only have to look at an animal that is still alive today. It raced across North America until about 13,000 years ago. Built almost exactly like a modern cheetah. Long legs, light bones, and a spine that worked like a spring. Its favorite prey was the pronghorn, a small deer-like animal that still lives on the American plains right now. And the pronghorn has a strange problem. It can sprint at nearly 100 kilometers an hour, far faster than anything that hunts it today. Nothing alive can catch it. So why is it so absurdly fast? Because it is still running from a predator that has been dead for 13,000 years. Evolution built that speed to escape the American cheetah. And even though the cat is long gone, the fear is still wired into its legs. Every time a pronghorn runs for its life, it is fleeing a ghost. That predator hunted with pure speed. The next one is the reason we did not even know what a saber-tooth truly looked like until last year. Meet Homotherium, the scimitar cat. And this is where the Ice Age finally gives up one of its greatest secrets. For almost 200 years, the saber-toothed cat was a guess. We had the bones, the terrible teeth, a few footprints, and nothing more. Every picture you have ever seen of one, in a museum, in a movie, was just an artist filling in the blanks. Nobody had ever actually laid eyes on one. Then came the body from the ice. In 2020, in the permafrost of Siberia, those diggers hunting for mammoth tusks found a frozen cub. When scientists finally described it in 2024, it became the first saber-toothed cat ever seen in the flesh, around 35,000 years old, with thick dark brown fur, small ears, and a neck more than twice as heavy as a lion cub of the same age. For the first time in human history, we were staring at the real face of a monster we had only ever imagined. And the adults were nightmares. Homotherium had shorter curved fangs like a row of blades, long front legs, and a sloped back built for the chase. In one cave in Texas, researchers found the bones of hundreds of baby mammoths, dragged there by scimitar cats to be eaten. This was a predator that hunted the young of the largest animals on Earth. And it did it on purpose. We finally know its face. I am not sure that makes it any less frightening. Now meet the one our ancestors were brave enough, or foolish enough, to paint. Meet the cave lion. Like the scimitar cat, the ice handed this one back to us almost whole. In the frozen ground of Siberia, scientists have found cave lion cubs so perfectly preserved that you can still see their whiskers, their fur, and their tiny claws. One of them, a cub they named Sparta, is around 28,000 years old, and may be the best preserved Ice Age animal ever discovered. Her DNA proved that cave lions were their own distinct kind of lion, one that never once set foot in Africa. The adults were larger than the lions we know, with little or no mane, and they terrified the humans who lived beside them. We know this because those humans drew them. In the Chauvet Cave in France, there are cave lions sketched onto the stone more than 30,000 years ago, by someone who had looked one in the eye, and lived to hold the charcoal. Think about that. The same animal that hunted us became one of the first things we ever chose to draw. But the cave lion was not even the biggest cat of the Ice Age. Not even close. Meet the American lion. It may be the largest cat that ever lived. A big male could reach around 400 kilograms, roughly a quarter larger than the biggest lions alive today. A single animal the size of a small car. It ruled the open plains of North America, and it simply took what it wanted: horses, bison, young mammoths. A single paw could cover a human face. Wherever it chose to walk was ground, and everything else had already left. And yet, for all that power, the American lion killed in the ordinary way, with weight and teeth. The next predator carried the most famous weapons of the entire Ice Age. And here is the twist. They barely worked. Meet Smilodon populator, the saber-toothed cat that everyone can picture, and almost nobody actually understands. It was the giant of the saber cats, close to 400 kilograms in South America, with two curved fangs that could grow to around 28 centimeters, longer than your hand and your forearm together. They are the most iconic weapons in the history of predators. And as a bite, they were almost useless. Test after test has shown that Smilodon had a weak bite, far weaker than a lion. Those enormous fangs were fragile. One hard bite onto struggling prey could have snapped them clean off. For years this was a real mystery. Why grow the deadliest looking teeth on the planet if you can barely close your mouth on anything? The answer was hiding in its arms. Smilodon had the front legs of a wrestler, packed with muscle. It did not chase and bite. It grabbed its prey, pinned it to the ground by raw strength, held it perfectly still, and only then pushed those long teeth slowly into the throat. It did not bite you to death. It held you down, and it stabbed you. Sleep well. Its teeth were a puzzle. The next animal holds a record that still stands today. Meet Thylacoleo, the marsupial lion of Australia. It is proof that nature can build a killer out of absolutely anything. This was not a cat. It was a close cousin of the koala and the wombat, those gentle, sleepy plant eaters, and somehow that family produced a flesh-ripping predator. It was about the size of a lioness, around 100 to 130 kilograms. And pound for pound, it had the strongest bite of any mammal predator that has ever lived, a record it holds to this day. A Thylacoleo weighing 100 kilograms could bite as hard as an African lion more than twice its size. It had teeth like bolt cutters, and a huge claw on each thumb to pin its prey in place while it fed. We found one nearly complete skeleton at the bottom of a cave in Australia, where the animal had fallen through a hole in the ground long ago, and never climbed back out. A killer descended from koalas, carrying the strongest bite on Earth. And it shared its island with something even stranger. Meet Megalania, the closest thing to a real dragon that has ever existed. And human beings may have met it. It was a monitor lizard, a giant cousin of the Komodo dragon, and it prowled Australia until roughly 40,000 years ago, which means the very first people to reach that continent could have walked straight into one. The size estimates are argued over, because we only have fragments, but they run from around 3.5 meters long to more than 5. It is the largest land lizard we have ever found. And like its living relatives, it likely did not need to win the fight. A bite full of bacteria, or possibly venom, meant a single wound could bring down its prey days later. It did not have to catch you cleanly. It only had to touch you once, and then follow you while you slowly fell apart. A venomous dragon that our own ancestors may have faced. And still, we have not reached the top of this list. Before we get there, one quick myth to kill. You are probably waiting for the cave bear. It was enormous, taller than a grizzly, and it slept in the very same caves as early humans. But here is the twist. The cave bear mostly ate plants. The most famous bear of the entire Ice Age was, for the most part, a giant nervous vegetarian. The bear you should actually be afraid of never gets the spotlight. Let us fix that. Meet the giant short-faced bear, Arctodus. This is the top of our list, and it earns it. On 4 legs it already stood taller at the shoulder than a grown man. Rising onto its hind legs, it reached around 3.4 meters. About 11 feet. The largest males may have weighed close to 1,000 kilograms. And unlike other bears, it had long legs, built to cover open ground quickly. Which means that running from it was never once an option. Scientists still argue about exactly how it hunted, whether it chased, ambushed, or simply walked up to smaller predators and stole their kills just by being terrifying. Every version of that story ends the same way for you. For thousands of years, Nothing on the entire continent could challenge it. And it was not even the largest. Far to the south, in ancient South America, lived its cousin Homotherium, very likely the biggest bear that ever existed. The largest individuals may have weighed more than 1,500 kilograms, heavier than a small car, standing taller than two men stacked on top of each other. That is not really a predator anymore. That is a moving building with an appetite. These were the kings of the Ice Age. And then, quietly, every last one of them lost. Because here is the truth about every monster in this video. The dire wolf that was never a wolf. The saber-tooth we finally pulled from the ice. The dragon. The giant bear. Every single one of them is gone. They were faster than us, stronger than us, and armed with weapons we could never grow. And they still lost. Around the end of the Ice Age, as the world slowly warmed, one new predator spread across every land these giants had ruled. It was slow. It was soft. It had no claws, and no fangs. But it had fire, and spears, and language. And each other. It hunted in planned, coordinated groups. It thought days ahead, and it remembered every animal that had ever killed one of its own. That predator drew the cave lion on the wall. It cracked open the same bones the hyena wanted. And it buried every giant in this video. That predator is you. The deadliest apex predator of the Ice Age was never the biggest, and it was never the strongest. It was the one clever enough to still be here, sitting somewhere warm, watching a video about all the others. Every one of those monsters was a dead end. You are the branch that kept going. So the next time you feel small and slow and soft, remember what your ancestors walked past every single day. And remember who is still standing. If this changed how you see the Ice Age, subscribe, because next time we are going underwater to meet the sea monsters that ruled the oceans long before the dinosaurs. Before history was written, survival was